Apparently, 5 years later, the mainstream opinion in both countries, I believe, is that there should be no steps back. Both parties are now bound by this agreement and must remain committed to its implementation on the basis of the principle that the agreements must be kept. I make no secret that Greece has expectations from North Macedonia concerning the implementation of its commitments outlined in the first part of the agreement. I will give you an obvious example, that is the use of the constitutional name by all as provided in the text of the agreement. That is very important. Implementation is essential in order to unlock the vast potential for the bilateral relations as expanded in the second part of the agreement. It has already been said that the Prespa Agreement was a crucial step that enabled NATO to welcome North Macedonia into the alliance. Very important for the country's security and for the region as well. As a result, during this critical period for peace in Europe, following the brutal Russian invasion of Ukraine, Greece and North Macedonia are on the same side as allies assisting Ukraine to defend itself. Advances in our bilateral defense cooperation, such as the Greek Air Force patrolling the skies of North Macedonia, are a clear indicator of the trust that has been achieved between our two countries. We should be proud and be encouraged to do more.
Sorry, we are rearranging seating.
It's the inversion they are doing to the Greeks usually here, you know? So don't worry.
So, Your Excellencies, dear guests, I've been asked about the European perspective of Western Balkans and of North Macedonia in particular. The Prespa Agreement is in this sense an important step towards promoting its European aspirations, as it essentially aims to create the foundation for good neighborly relations with my country. My country, it is true, we are conscious of the need for stability in the Balkans, and we supported in the past our neighbors, Bulgaria and Romania, and since the Thessaloniki summit, we supported the idea of taking into the European Union as members the Western Balkan countries. Recently, we advocated opening the accession negotiations between the EU and North Macedonia so as to pave the way for the realization of the country's strategic objective. We have full understanding for that, and we hope that this goes on in the right direction. Hope is, of course, that the countries aspiring for EU accession will do their part to demonstrate their commitment in meeting fundamental obligations such as democratic reform, rule of law, combating corruption and organized crime, and of course promoting good neighborly relations while leaving behind outdated nationalistic tendencies. The European accession path is the only one that genuinely corresponds, I am sure, to the wishes of the citizens in the whole Western Balkans. It is also the only way to counter the malign influence of third countries with autocratic regimes and rulers seeking to realize objectives that have nothing to do with our European values. Now, there's no doubt that the crisis in Ukraine has impacted on all our economies, particularly due to the rise in energy costs, high inflation that put big pressure on business and households. Against this challenging background, which could last for some time as things go, cooperation is necessary in order to ensure energy security for our countries and the diversification of energy sources and routes. Greece has proven its will and its capacity to play an important role in these efforts through existing and planned infrastructure, accommodating or able to accommodate a variety of energy sources, coming, for example, from Azerbaijan or in the form of LNG from various countries, US, the Gulf countries, and in the future from other resources in Eastern Mediterranean. I should add to that, since talking about energy appears important in the current juncture, that Greece has a successful experience and considerable expertise in renewable energy sources, and we can be of great value to our neighbors in their efforts to diversify the energy mix. Last May, my country has reached the point to cover half of its electricity needs from renewables, and this is the future for all countries. Concerning our relations with North Macedonia, the energy is not the only area of interest. Economic relations existed even before the Prespa Agreement. They have been on an upward trend, and this continues to develop in a positive way to this day. New investments are planned, and let me also mention that North Macedonia uses for its external trade the Thessaloniki harbor, and concerning us, Greece, the corridor 10 is linking us to the rest of Europe, Central Europe, and the rest of Europe. Last thing I would like to stress is, and is of big importance, is people-to-people contacts that also before the conclusion of the Prespa Agreement, I should say, have been frequent and dense over the years. An example of this is that we are very happy to welcome thousands of visitors from North Macedonia on a yearly basis. All these elements allow us to hope for a better future together, and we should bear in mind that we should all contribute with common efforts to a peaceful and prosperous Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have another microphone. So thank you very much, Ambassador Kondouras, for your very important thoughts. I'd like now to give the floor to Ms. Angelina Eichhorst. She is the Managing Director for Europe and Central Asia at the European External Action Service at the European Union. We were already talking about the importance of reforms that need to be sped up also in the region. So my question for you is, how important is that this determined EU integration process to keep the Western Balkans in track for the sake of the region, but also for the sake of the European Union? And what should we jointly do to fulfill the promise of Thessaloniki 2003? And this is your microphone.
That's 20 years ago, right? Prime Minister, dear friends, it's really great to be here. It's not so good to keep you all from the dinner, so I will be very short. Valbona, I want to congratulate you for keeping the energy, the way you kept us all back here. I think there's some women power there too. But it's really great to be back. It's my third time too. I feel very much part of this forum. I hope to continue to come and join and to be part of the dialogue and the narrative and all the reasons why we're here. We know them very, very well. But I happen to be also, I was a witness at the signing of the Prespa Agreement at a fantastic place at the lake on a sunny, bright day just 5 years ago. And this was, of course, I don't need to say it, but we all know how exceptional this was. And the value of such agreements as they are signed in Prespa, the process actually leading to them, it really is about the courage. We heard it many times this evening, but the vision of the leaders, it's quite something when you have leaders who know that they take political risks and they still go for where they want to go. We should not really skip through the nouns and the adjectives too quickly, because more and more we need these kind of agreements, these kind of processes, this peace, even more than any time before. The unity is very important and the determination. And you heard this also very clearly from the President of the European Council. So it's written there, widened European family by 2030 is mission possible. I really want you to keep that very much in mind, because I think it's no longer about whether if, it is more when, how, what can we do best. And it's also about us, of course, inside the European Union, working more faster, more efficient. We are building a union now with a new wave of enlargement. We talk about the 6 Balkans, but we have 10 in total who want to join. And 10 joining means a single market of 600 million people, right? It has a GDP of 17 trillion. And then I include, of course, also the EEA countries, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway. A single market that is super, super powerful. And we want you all to be part, increasingly, incrementally, of the single market, member of the European Union, not to replace, but to be a member. I think you all have to, I hope you take it away also from what we are all discussing here this evening. Enlargement today in Brussels is not what it used to be 2 years ago. We work very differently, we make different decisions, we do the impossible, and I think this is a reflection I want to inject everywhere. It was mentioned already, the momentum to take and to make very difficult decisions, but to do it clearly for the country, for the future. North Macedonia had to wait very, very, very long. And that is not good, not for any of our partners or countries in the Balkans. And it is very important that we have to continue to make the case, and we do this together. But today, North Macedonia is ongoing a very successful screening process, and the Frontex agreement was finally signed, concluded, deployed in the Macedonian language. The Prime Minister said it when he started his speech, in the Macedonian language. Of course, we want to go faster, quicker, more efficient, with more vigor, and really not losing this momentum at this point in time. But don't forget, this is about the largest single market in the world you are entering. This is about really prosperity, economic convergence, and improving the standard of living for the citizens. And there, I think we need to be able to show that we can do this together. A very last point on the decisions needed for the change of the constitution. Changing a constitution for every country is a sovereign decision, right? And over time, when you access the market, when you access the European Union, a lot of legislative changes will need to take place constantly. You will be constantly updating legislation. It's normal. It's what all member states do until very much today, because we are advancing so quickly. And there, the role of governments, of parliaments, of institutions, democratic institutions, functioning institutions, systems, is even more important. More important, and also they need to be adapted rather quickly. I think flexibility will become the key word of the future. All of us, we need to adapt very quickly. And we cannot constantly fall into sometimes very local party politics when national interests are at stake. when European interests are at stake. There is the key on the flexibility, on the compromise, but I'm also saying it because artificial intelligence will play such an important role in our lives. We cannot even grasp what is happening around this. And the more artificial intelligence you have, the more human intelligence you will need to remain human. And to remain human is to have dialogue and to also agree to disagree. We discussed it many times today, but there I think we need to invest much, much more together. The High Representative, Josep Borrell, he said, it was during our last Stabilization Council here in Skopje, the Stabilization Association Council, he said no one loses their identity, history, or language on the way to the European Union. The contrary is actually the case. The contrary is the case. And I think this is a point that has to be made on and on again. And people have to understand that this is very much what the European Union is. It's preserving your identity. It's preserving also history, the language, and preserving and building the future together. So your language, the Macedonian language, is included in the negotiation framework without qualification. And then we have the good neighborly relations. Greece is here. Thank you so much for your very encouraging words. Also, Greece is an important member state. We have to stand together in good neighborly relations to see also how Prespa works, but how any agreement can work in the future. And we believe that North Macedonia has a very good track record on interethnic relations, on the need to live together, not always to agree on everything, but to live together. I think we are all here this evening. We want to help amplify this. Sorry for being a little bit long, but sometimes the European Union can be a little bit long. When you become member, you will be asked to be very brief in your interventions in council because 27 have to speak and many more. But on the other hand, we do want to amplify the good part of all the work that is being done and again confirm our full willingness to work together to make this possible as is right out there, a bigger family by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Heidrich, for the very important and encouraging messages. And now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Manuel Mazarin. Where are you, Manuel? Okay. Special Representative of the German Federal Government for the Western Balkans. Manuel, yesterday Germany published the new the first national security strategy. And it's very interesting, in the very first paragraphs in the executive summary, where it talks about the goal of a free, united, and prosperous Europe, it connects it with European cohesion and European enlargement, especially with Western Balkans and the other 3 countries in Eastern Partnership. So that is an important message. What does that mean for the future of the Western Balkans?
Well, the good news is that in German government, is the camera still on? Will this be transmitted to Germany? We had some discussions in the coalition the last days, perhaps you followed, and for the Greens it was quite tough, and it seems that it's not fresh love. I don't know if you know this from your government, Dimitar. Sometimes in a coalition, you don't know it, you have only fresh love. Okay. But I can tell you something. I have a chancellor, and I have a foreign minister, and I also have a liberal coalition party. They are all completely by heart and by conviction sure the Western Balkans belong to European Union. You are Europeans on eye level. We want you in like we are in, as the same. You are part of Europe. You have to be part of European Union. This is the personal conviction of Olaf, of Annalena, and of the whole coalition. This is the good news, and this is why it's standing in the national strategy. The second point, and this is what I would like to tell you today, is in around 1 hour, there will be voting in German Parliament on North Macedonia's path towards European Union. A lot of MPs from Germany were in the region, and a lot of people from all parties in North Macedonia told them about Soros. A lot of people said, we are afraid of losing Macedonian identity, Macedonian culture, Macedonian language over the dispute we have with some neighbors. We are not those ones who can, make other countries having different decisions. We cannot say the Bulgarians do this or that. But what we can promise you, and German Parliament is going to do that in a voting, we promise you friendship and we promise you that German Parliament is recognizing the Macedonian identity, culture, and language. Is this a guarantee? Is this a guarantee? Well, has Germany ever broken a promise? This is a promise of we stand behind you on the path of the European Union, and it's clearly stated we see the European Union, Mr. Radman can confirm, as a union of diversity of cultures, languages, and identities. North Macedonia is a role model of this culture, and you can be sure that Germany will lead your path towards the European Union with this sense of seeing your country and seeing your country inside the European Union with this effort. This is clear position of Germany now, and this is said by German Parliament tonight, and I think this is also good news. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manuel. And now, last but not least, Mr. Milos Ristovski, the Secretary General at European Youth Forum in Brussels. And I'm so glad you're here representing the youth. And I want you to tell us a little bit more about the importance of including young people when we negotiate those important agreements.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you to the government of the Republic of North Macedonia and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the invitation. It's a privilege to speak in the country where I was born, where I started my activism, where I started in a city called Kumanovo, but now addressing and talking in the name of the European Youth Forum and talking in the name of 40 million young people, 25% of the population. I am here representing the Youth Forum, and the Youth Forum sees the participation of young people and young people's participation and well-being of young people through different pillars. One is democracy, pillars like here, where we speak about democracy and we ensure space for participation. The other one is the social and economic inclusion, and the third one is sustainability and climate. The European Youth Forum is a platform of more than 120 platforms of youth organizations where the national youth councils from the Western Balkans are represented. In this short speech, I'm going to present a bit of the points that I would like to bring in how the young people can be the ally when it comes to turning the challenges into opportunities. The young people have been always there in the forefront. We have been the ones that have been organizing youth exchanges. We have been the ones that will be organizing volunteering programs, mobility programs. We have been already working and organizing activities all across the region. This kind of fora and discussion with people from different countries coming from the Western Balkan and wider, like Greece and Bulgaria, is not strange for us. We have been doing this even before the Prespa Agreement. We just now are asking for a space to continue being this. The youth organizations, just as here, are using this space to speak with different stakeholders, but this is a momentum. Something that gives me the relevance to speak here is the Western Balkans National Youth Councils, who are already part of the European family. I would like to point out that the National Youth Councils present here, the National Youth Council of North Macedonia, the National Youth Council of Serbia, Montenegro, Albania, they're already part, and we already work with them in the European Youth Forum. And they have already been integrated in the wider Europe as we speak. This means that I'm asking the representatives from the governments here to be their allies, to ask for more spaces for participation, for a structured space of participation and places where they can actually benefit even more. The National Youth Councils from the Western Balkans are actually experts, and they're supporting other regions when it comes to integration, when it comes to actually relationship between the neighbors, when it comes to reconciliation. And this is where we need to support them in order for them to be present. In the end, a very specific point that I have been asked by my colleagues to share is the support needed from the governments to support the Western Balkans National Youth Councils to be actively taking part in the Youth Dialogue of the European Commission. The Youth Dialogue of the European Commission is the platform where we all, young people in Europe, have the chance to shape European policies. The Western Balkans countries have been there involved sometimes, sometimes not. And a lot of times it has been said that we can involve the young people, but we need the ministry representatives to also be willing to sit with them, to be part of the national working groups, as it said. So here I'm encouraging you all representatives from all the governments, to speak with the youth representation structures. They're the youth-led bodies. The national youth councils are the real partners when it comes to youth participation, which is not going to be only a moment, but they'll be your ally for the integration, but also in the future when the whole region is going to be part of the European family. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I pass the floor to you.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. Great, very important to include youth in all discussions, negotiations, but also women. They have to be at the negotiation table too. And now I'd like to give the floor for the concluding remarks to Mr. Bujar Osmani, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of North Macedonia.
Prime Minister, you asked the panel to last shorter, so...
I was not going to save you if it was over.
Dear Excellencies, let me first apologize about the inconvenience. I'd like to thank and to apologize and to thank to Valbona for her courage and spirit shown. This is a reminder that stormy weathers are still here in the Balkans, but we show today that we can restart soon. Distinguished panelists, today we heard very clear messages from the esteemed speakers at this opening of the Prespa Forum Dialogue 2023. Allow me to thank you for your participation on the third edition of Prespa Forum Dialogue, which coincides with the 5th anniversary since the signing of the Prespa Agreement, an incentive for establishment of Prespa Forum Dialogue. The Prespa Agreement was an embodiment of hope and determination. It represented a turning point in history for us, as challenges were confronted head-on and transformed into opportunities for progress. This agreement demonstrated the culture of dialogue and compromise, paving the way for stability, peace, and prosperity in the region. In synergy with the Ohrid Framework Agreement and the Friendship and Good Neighborliness Agreement with Bulgaria, the Prespa Agreement represents a unique and lasting contribution to the peace, stability, and advancement of good neighborliness in Southeast Europe. Today, these three pillars of our functional multi-ethnic democracy serves as a beacon of inspiration to envision a future in which barriers are broken down and bridges are built across nations. Because it is these agreements that embody the ideas of dialogue, compromise, cooperation, and unity in diversity being essential values for the European project. By choosing Struga this year as the venue for the Prespa Forum Dialogue, we acknowledge the city's rich history of cultural exchange and its ability to inspire dialogue and productive discussions. Struga, renowned for its vibrant cultural heritage and home to the celebrated Struga Poetry Evenings, holds a unique place in the hearts of artists and poets all over the world, breaking down barriers of language and bridging cultures, languages, nations. In a similar vein, the Prespa Forum Dialogue acts as a bridge between political leaders and stakeholders in their collective pursuit of a prosperous and stable future for the region. This year's forum holds great significance as we reflect upon the past and look towards a future where wars are impossible. Who would have thought that we would be talking about a war of aggression happening on European soil a quarter century after the Yugoslav wars, Europe's deadliest conflict since the World War II. Today, Europe is faced with new geopolitical realities that require geostrategic thinking, while the rules-based order and the very basics of democracy are being challenged with illiberal and autocratic tendencies. As we set our sights on the year 2030, we are all faced with a task, a mission to complete Europe by widening the European family. This mission, although challenging, is far from impossible. It requires for each and every one of us to acknowledge the geopolitical momentum and safeguard the newly found Euro-Atlantic unity in order to strengthen our shared resilience towards Europe that is safe, inclusive, and prosperous for all. In our pursuit of a wide-knit European family, we must also acknowledge the importance of addressing the pressing challenges that lie before us. We must tackle issues such as economic inequality, corruption, and climate change collectively. By harnessing the power of cooperation and innovation, we can transform these challenges into opportunities for growth, development, and progress. The Prespa Forum Dialogue provides us with a platform to engage in meaningful discussions, to share our experiences, and to learn from one another. It is through constructive dialogue and mutual respect that we can find common ground and create a shared vision for the future. I urge each and every one of you to actively participate in these discussions and to contribute with your insight and expertise. As I conclude the official opening of the Prespa Forum Dialogue 2023, I call upon you, let us strive to turn challenges into opportunities, to widen the European family, and to make the mission of a greater Europe not just possible, but inevitable. Now, indulge me please, dear Mrs. Zanelli, to be in your shoes for a moment and announce that 2023 Prespa Forum Dialogue Award goes to the Regional Cooperation Council in recognition of the invaluable contributions and unwavering commitment to fostering regional cooperation and dialogue. I call on Prime Minister Kovacevski and RCC Secretary General Mailinda Bregu to join me on the floor. Mrs. Bregu is to be presented with the award on behalf of RCC by the Prime Minister Kovacevski, under whose auspices is this year's Prespa Forum for Dialogue. This year, Prespa Forum Dialogue Award goes in the hands of RCC for its tireless efforts in promoting peace, stability, and prosperity among the countries of our region that have set a bright example for all. We commend its dedication in building bridges, strengthening partnership, and cultivating a shared vision for a brighter future. Prime Minister Mailinda. Thank you, sir.
We can.
So I will do this in English. I'm really happy and I'm honored that I can hand over this award to Mailinda. I call her Mailinda because we actually have a history of working together, and actually I was appointed as representative for North Macedonia in the RCC, and my mandate was only a day because the next day I was announced to be the next Prime Minister. So she was my boss for a whole one day. But I came to the position from RCC, and I'm happy that actually I worked for a day with Mailinda, and she is really an example where and how this region should develop and where it should go. So she represents our cooperation, our struggle to implement the 4 freedoms of Europe, to erase the borders between the Western Balkans countries, to implement the Berlin process fundaments, and to work together for countries going forward, all the 6 countries of the Western Balkans. Mailinda, thank you.
Prime Minister, thank you very much. As an RCC employee for 24 hours, you can as well hold it. So thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this recognition under this weather. So I'm going to be as fast, as furious as this wind was. But first and foremost, let me just ask for a big applaud to Valbona. If anyone needs any proof versus validation that women can overcome everything, she showed this to us and to everybody tonight. So otherwise, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have the chance to get and hold this prestigious recognition. And I have to say that it's like the 15 years of the RCC this time, and for everyone, the 15 years birthday, you know that is a special junction of time. You pass from childhood to maturity. And I hope very much that this region that has shown different examples of political responsibility, courage, and there is, for that reason, why this forum is called Prespa Forum, but as well of full understanding and respecting each other's, even in countries when different ethnies cohabitate together, and North Macedonia is a great example for that. These are all inspiring paths for all of us in the process of regional cooperation. Although difficult, this region is quite beautiful, even with a lot of pains and disputes still on that. But I dare to say tonight that this award goes to everybody who contributed to the noble cause of cooperation, leaving behind the disputes and disagreements. So thank you very much and highly appreciate it.
Now we go there, or we go there?
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We can go